Hi, my dear friends. Today I will read the book of Ray Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451, without video only. Uh, it will be only audio, and let's begin. Let me alone, said Mildred. I didn't do anything. Let you alone? That's all very well, but how can I leave myself alone? We need not to be let alone. We need to be really bothered once in a while. How long is it since you were really bothered about something important, about something real? And then he shot up, for he remembered last weekend the two white stones staring up at the ceiling at the pump snake with the probing eye, and the two soap-faced men with the cigarettes moving in their mouth then when they talked. But what was another Mildred that was a Mildred so deep inside this one, and so bothered, really bothered, that the two women had never met. He turned away. Mildred said, "Well, now you have done it out front of the house. Look who is here." "I don't care. There is a Phoenix car just driven up, and a man in a black shirt with an orange snake stitched on his arm coming up the front walk." "Captain Beatty?" he said. Captain Beatty. Montag didn't move, but stood looking into the cold whiteness of the wall immediately before him. "Go let him in, will you? Tell him I'm sick. Tell him yourself." She ran a few steps this way, a few steps that stopped eyes wide when the front door speaker called her name softly, softly. "Mrs. Montag, Mrs. Montag, someone here, someone here. Mrs. Montag, Mrs. Montag, someone's here," fading. Montag made sure the book was well hidden behind the pillow, climbed slowly back into bed, arranged the covers over his knees, and across his chest, half sitting, and after a while Mildred moved and went out of the room, and Captain Beatty strolled in, his hands in his pockets. "Shoot the relatives up," said Beatty, looking around at everything except Montag and his wife. This time Mildred ran. The yammering voices stopped yelling in the parlor. Captain Beatty sat down in the most comfortable chair with a peaceful look on his ruddy face. He took time to prepare and light his brass pipe and puff out a great smoke cloud. "Just thought I I'll come I would come by and see how the sick man is." "How you guessed? You guess?" Beatty smiled his smile which showed the candy pinkness of his gums and the tiny candy whiteness of his teeth. "I've never seen I have seen it all. You were going to call for a night off." Montag sat in bed. "Well," said Beatty, "take the night off." He examined his eternal matchbox, the lid of which said guaranteed 1,000,000 lights in this igniter, and began to strike the chemical match abstractedly. Blow out, strike, blow out, strike, speak and a few words, blow out. He looked at the flame, he blew, he at the smoke. When will you be well? When will you be well? Tomorrow, the next day maybe. First of the week. Bitsy puffed his pipe. Every fireman sooner or later hits this. They only need understanding to know how the wheels run, need to know the history of our profession. They don't fit it to rookies like they use it to. Damn shame. Poof. Only fire chiefs remember it now. Poof. I'll let you in on it. Mildred fidgeted. Beatty took a full minute to settle himself in, in and think back for what he wanted to say. When did it all start? You ask. This job of ours. How did it come about? Where? When? Well, I had say it really got started around about a thing called the Civil War. Even though our rule book claims it was founded earlier. The fact is we didn't get along well until photography came into its own, then motion pictures in the early 20th century, radio, television, things began to have mass. Montag sat in bed, not moving, and because they had mass, they became simpler, said Beatty. Once books appealed to a few people, here, there, everywhere. They could afford to be different. The world was roomy, but then the world got full of eyes and elbows and mouths, double, triple, quadruple population. Films and radios, magazines, books, leveled down to a sort of paste pudding norm. Do you follow me? I think so. Bitsy peered at the smoke pattern he had put out on the air. Picture it. 19th century man with his horses, dogs, cars, slow motion. Then in the 20th century, speed up your camera, books cut shorter, condensations, digests, tabloids, everything boils down to the gag, the snap ending. Snap ending, Mildred nodded. Classics cut to fit 15-minute radio shows, then cut again to fill a 2-minute book column, winding up at last as a 10 or 12 line dictionary resume. I exaggerate, of course. The dictionaries were for reference, but many were those whose sole knowledge of Hamlet. You know the title, certainly Montag. It's probably only a faint rumor of title to you, Mrs. Montag, whose sole knowledge, as I say, of Hamlet was a one-page digest in a book that claimed it. Now at least you can read all the classics. Keep up with your neighbors. Do you see? Out of nursery into the college and back to the nursery, there is your intellectual pattern for the past 5 centuries or more. Mildred arose and began to move around the room, picking things up and putting them down. Betsy ignored her and continued. Speed up the film, Montag, quick. Click, pick, look, I now flick here, there, swift pace, up, down, in, out. Why, how, who, what, where, oh, bang, smack, smack, wallop, bing, bong, boom. Digest, 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 digest. Politics. One column, 2 sentences. A headline, then in midair all vanishes. Real men's mind around about so fast under the pumping hands and of publishers, exploiters, broadcasters that the centrifuge flings of all unnecessary time wasting self. Mildred smoothed the bedclothes. Montag felt his heart jump and jump again as she patted his pillow. Right now she was pulling at his shoulder to try to get him to move so she could take the pillow out and fix it nicely and put it back, and perhaps cry out and stare, or simply reach down her hand and say, "What is it?" and hold up the hidden book with touching innocence. School is shortened, discipline relaxed, philosophies, histories, language dropped, English and spelling gradually neglected, finally almost completely ignored. Life is immediate, the job counts, pleasure lies all about after work. Why learn anything safe pressing buttons, pulling switches, fitting nuts and bolts? "Let me fix your pillow," said Mildred. "No," whispered Montag. "The zipper places the button, and the man lacks just that much time to think while dressing at dawn, a philosophical, a philosophical hour, and thus a melancholy hour." Mildred said, "Here, get away," said Montag. "Life becomes one big pratfall. Montag, everything, bang, boff, and wow." "Wow," said Mildred, yanking at the pillow. "For God's sake, let me be," cried Montag passionately. Betty opened his eyes wide. Mildred's hand had frozen behind the pillow. Her fingers were tracing the book's outline at and the shape became familiar. Her face looked surprised and then stunned. Her mouth opened to ask a question. Empty the theaters have safe for clowns and furnish the rooms with glass walls and pretty colors running up and down the walls like confetti or blood or cherry or saturn. You like baseball, don't you, Montag? Baseball is fine game. Now Betty was almost invisible, a voice somewhere behind a screen of smoke. "What is this?" asked Mildred almost with delight. Montag heaved back against her arms. "What is this here?" "Sit down," Montag shouted. She jumped away, her hands empty. "We are talking." Betty went on as if nothing had happened. "You like bowling, don't you, Montag?" "Bowling, yes. And golf?" "Golf is a fine game. Basketball, a fine game. Billiards, pool, football, fine games, all of them. More sports for everyone. Group spirit, fun, and you don't have to think, yeah? Organize and super sport. More cartoons in book, more pictures. The mind drinks less and less. Impatience. Highways full of crowds going somewhere, nowhere. The gasoline refugee. Towns turn into motels, people in nomadic searches from place to place following the moon tides, living tonight in the room where you slept this noon and the night before. Mildred went out of the room and slammed their door. The parlor aunts began to laugh at the parlor uncles. Now let's take up the minorities in our civilization. Shall we? Bigger the population, the more minorities. Don't step on the toes of the dog lovers, the cat lovers, the doctors, lawyers, uh, merchants, chiefs, Mormons, Baptists, Unitarians, second generation Chinese, Swedes, Italians, Germans, Texans, Brooklynites, Irishmen, people from Oregon or Mexico. The people in this book display this TV serial are not meant to represent any actual painters, cartographers, mechanics anywhere. The bigger your market, Montag, the less you handle controversy. Remember that all the minorities with their navels to be kept clean, authors full of evil thoughts, lock up you typewriter typewriters. They did. Magazines became a nice blend of vanilla tapioca. Books, so damn snobbish critics said, were dishwater. No wonder books stopped selling, the critics said, but the public, knowing what it wanted, spinning happily, let the comic books survive, and the three-dimensional sex magazines, of course. There you have it, Montag. It didn't come from the government down. There was the dictum, no declaration, no censorship to start with, no technology, mass exploitation, and minority pressure carried the trick, thank God. Today, thanks to them, you can stay happy all the time. You are allowed to read comics, the good old confessions, or trade journals. Yes, but what about the fireman then? Asked Montag. Ah, Beatty leaned forward in the faint mist of smoke from his pipe. What more easily explained and natural, with school turning out more runners, jumpers, racers, tinkerers, grabbers, snatchers, flyers, and swimmers instead of examiners, critics, hours, and imaginative creators. The word intellectual, of course, became the swear word it deserved to be. You always dread the unfamiliar. Surely you remember the boy in your own school class who was exceptionally bright, did most the reciting and answering, while the others sat like so many little idols hating him. And wasn't it this bright boy you selected for beatings and tortures after hours? Of course it was. We must all be alike, not everyone born free and equal, as the Constitution says, but everyone made equal, each man the image of every other. Then all are happy, for there are no mountains to make them cower, to judge themselves against. So, a book is loaded gun in the house next door. Burn it. Take the shot from the weapon. Breach man's mind. Who knows who might be the target of the well-read man? Me? I won't stomach them for a minute. And so when houses were finally fireproofed completely all over the world, you were correct in your assumption. The other night there was no longer need of firemen for the old purposes. They were given the new job of custodians of our peace of mind, the focus of our understandable and rightful dread of being inferior, official censors, judges, and executors. That's you, Montag, and that's me. The door to the parlor opened and Mildred stood there looking in at them, looking at Betty and then at Montag. Behind her the walls of the room were flooded with green and yellow and orange fireworks sizzling and bursting to some music composed almost completely of trap drums, tom-toms and cymbals. Her mouth moved and she was saying something, but the sound covered it. Bitsy knocked his pipe into the palm of his pink hand, studied the ashes as if they were a symbol to be diagnosed, and searched for meaning. You must understand that our civilization is so vast that we can't have our minorities upset and stirred. Ask yourself, what do we want in this country above all? People want to be happy, isn't that right? Haven't you heard it all your life? I want to be happy, people say. Well, aren't they? Don't we keep them moving? Don't we give them fun? That's all we live for, isn't it? For pleasure, for titillation, and you must admit our culture provides plenty of this. Montag could lip read what Mildred was saying in the doorway. He tried not to look at her mouth, because then Betty might turn and read what was there too. Colored people don't like little black Sambo. Burn it. White people don't feel good above Uncle Tom's cabin. Burn it. Someone's written a book on tobacco and cancer of the lungs. The cigarette people are weeping. Bomb the book. Serenity, Montag. Peace, Montag. Take your fight outside. Better yet, into the incinerator. Funerals are unhappy and pagan. Eliminate them too. 5 minutes after a person is dead, he's on his way to the big flue. The incinerator serviced by helicopters all over the country. 10 minutes after death, a man's a speck of a black dust. Let's not quibble over individuals with memorials. Forget them. Burn them all. Burn everything. Fire is bright and fire is clean. The fireworks died in the parlor behind Mildred. She had stopped talking at the same time. A miraculous coincidence. Montag held his breath. There was a girl next door, he said slowly. She's gone now, I think dead. I can't even remember her face, but she was different. How? How did she happen? She happened. Betty smiled. Here or there, that's bound to occur. Clarice McClellan. We have a record on her family. We have watched them carefully. Heredity and environment are funny things. You can't rid yourselves of all the odd ducks in just a few years. The home environment can undo a lot you try to do at school. That's why we have lowered the kindergarten age year after year. Until now, we are almost snatching them from the cradle. We had some false alarms on the McClellans when they lived in Chicago. Never found a book. Uncle had a mixed record, antisocial. The girl, she was a time bomb. The family had been feeding her subconscious, I'm sure from what I saw of her school record. She didn't want to know how a thing was done, but why. That can be embarrassing. You ask why to a lot of things and you end up very unhappy indeed. If you keep at it, the poor girl's better off dead. Yes, did. Dead. Luckily, queer ones like her don't happen often. He know how to nip most of them in the bud early. You can build a house without nails and wood. If you don't want a house built, hide the nails and wood. If you don't want a man unhappy politically, don't give him two sides to a question to worry him, give him one. Better yet, give him none. None. No one. Let him forget there is such a thing as war. If the government is inefficient, top heavy and tax mad, better it be all those than that people worry over it. Peace Montag. Give the people contests they win by remembering the words to more popular songs or names of state capitals or how much corn Iowa grew last year. Cram them full of non-combustible data, ch- choke them so damned full of facts they feel stuffed but absolutely brilliant with information. Then they will feel they are thinking, they will get a sense of motion without moving, and they will be happy because facts of that sort don't change. Don't give them any slippery stuff like philosophy or sociology to tie things up with. That way lies melancholy. Any man who can take a TV wall apart and put it back together again, and most men can nowadays, is happier than any man who tries to slide the rule measure and equate the universe which just won't be measured or equated without making man feel bestial and lonely. I know I tried it to hell with it. So bring on your clubs and parties, your acrobats and magicians, your devils, jet cars, motorcycle, helicopters, your sex and heroin, more of everything to do with an automatic reflex. If drama, if the drama is bad, if the film says nothing, if the play is hollow, sting me with the terming loudly. I'll think I'm responding to the play when it's only a tactile reaction to vibration, but I don't care. I just like solid entertainment. Bitsy got up. I must be going. Lecture's over. I hope I clarified things. The important things for you to remember, Montag, if is we are the Happiness Boys, the Dixie Duo, you and I and others. We stand against the small tide of those who want to make everyone unhappy with conflicting, conflicting theory, theory and thought. We have our fingers in the dike, hold steady. Don't let the torrent of melancholy and dreary philosophy drown our world. We depend on you. I don't think you realize how important you are to our happy world as it stands now. Betty shook Montag's limp hand. Montag still sat as if the house were collapsing about him and he couldn't move in the bed. Mildred had vanished from the door. One last thing, said Betty. At least once in his career, every fireman gets an itch. What do the books say? He wonders. Or to scratch that itch? Well, Montag, take my word for it. I had to read a few in my time to know what I was about, and the books say nothing. Nothing you can teach or believe. They are about non-existent people, figments and of imagination, if they are fiction, and if they are non-fiction, it's worse. One professor calling another an idiot, and one philosopher screaming down another gullet, all of them running about, putting out the stars and extinguishing the sun. You come away last. Well, then what if a fireman accidentally, really not intending anything, takes a book home with him? Montag twitched. The open door looked at him with its great vacant eye. A natural error. Curiosity alone, said Betty. We don't get over anxious or mad. We let the fireman keep the book 24 hours. If he hasn't burned it by then, we simply come and burn it for him. Of course, Montag's mouth was dry. Well, Montag, will you take another later shift today? Will we see you tonight, perhaps? I don't know, said Montag. What? Betty looked faintly surprised. Montag shut his eyes. I'll be in later, maybe. So, okay. I think that we continue this reading tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. See you later.